Hello and welcome. It's Wednesday, the 27th of February, with a bunch of stories from the 27th of February 1817. This is taken from the Taunton Courier and Western Advisor, which sounds about as local journalism can possibly be. We're going to start off with some time for science. Electricity. A recent discovery by Howie proved that certain varieties of electric calamay or silicated zinc are constantly electric at the common temperature of the air. This may lead to some curious analogies in the theory of magnetism, a theory intimately connected with electricity and galvanism. Galvanism. Repeated experiments in this branch of science may be productive of extraordinary discoveries with respect to the action of mind upon matter, if the position of Bichot be correct, that galvanism will operate upon the voluntary muscles of an animal recently killed, but not upon those whose motion is unconnected with the will. And that's just one example of how quickly things changed in the 19th century. And when you compare just about everything in the earlier papers from the 19th century to the papers in the latter part of the Victorian period, the difference is just so stark. Yeah, it's like 100 years. It's amazing to think that, like an elder person in Victorian times would just not have recognised the world around him, it seems. Another thing that never really ceases to amaze me about sort of older newspapers, especially when you get back this stage, is how eloquent the writers were. But it's equally surprising that with all the flowery dancing with the words and such, and how they can how indirect everything seems to be, when they want to be, they can be absolutely severely direct. And that comes across quite shocking when it does, such as this story of murder and justice. In human murder in Berkshire, a most shocking murder was committed on Thursday night between 9 and 10 o'clock upon the person of the Reverend Mr. Longway at Pangbourne, near Reading in Berkshire. The circumstances of this horrid catastrophe, as far as we've been able to obtain them with accuracy, are these. Mr. Longway was a Roman Catholic priest and a teacher of the French language, residing at Reading. Mr. Longway quitted Mr. Morton's house between 8 and 9 o'clock. Previous, however, to his quitting, Mrs. Morton came to the door with him and, observing that it was very dark night, endeavoured to persuade him to continue there all night. The hospitable offer was, unfortunately for the poor gentleman, rejected, accompanied by these words: "I know the road very well, and although it appears very dark now, it will be much brighter to me when I get from the light of the candle." He then bade Miss Morton good night, and pursued his journey. He had not, we are sorry to add, proceeded more than 6 miles, before he was attacked by some villains, who barbarously murdered him, apparently with some sharp instrument, for when he was found on Friday morning, his head was nearly severed from his body, and he was dreadfully mangled, cut and stabbed in various parts of the body. His body was cut open, and in his heart were no less than 5 stabs supposed to have been inflicted by a bayonet. This circumstance, it is hoped, will lead to the detection of the perpetrators. It does not appear that the unfortunate gentleman had much property about him. Mr. Longway has not left a wife or family to lament his untimely end. There is not, however, a person who knew him that does not regret the loss of a man whose virtues and qualifications endeared him to all capable of appreciating his worth and merits. The magistrates in the neighbourhood have been very active, publishing handbills of the circumstance, and in offering rewards for the apprehension of the inhuman delinquents, and we sincerely hope that their prompt executions may speedily bring to justice the perpetrators of so foul a deed. I sincerely hope that the prompt executions may speedily bring to justice. I mean, alright. It's interesting how when they want to make a point or they want to say something, suddenly they can drop all that flower and pomp and just say something quite cuttingly direct. Anyway, I'll leave you today with this fine sounding invention. A Mr. Peavis of Boston, America, has invented a new musical instrument by combining together the vibrating tongue of the mouth harp and the form and bellows of the organ. It is said to produce very fine tones and excellent music. To be honest, I'm imagining that and I'm struggling to see how that makes anything other than a long and painful whine. That was yesterday, this is today, and it's midweek, which is pretty good news for all of us. It's be fairly soon that the new main episode of Dark Histories is going to be hitting Patreon. I'm still actually working on it as we speak, so it's going to be possibly a day or two yet, but it'll be this week, early access for patrons, and Sunday for everyone else, so that's cool. Anyway, have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.